Hello, this is Scott. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I cover a variety of different analytics and data science topics. Today we're going to be talking about data science and the integration of a visual BI tool, Spotfire dashboards, with Statistica, which is a machine learning data science platform. And so I have a lot of videos on those two platforms, and I'm going to make a playlist on this functionality specifically to the integration of these two products. The idea is that I can use the Statistica as a back end with workflows and present them up through Spotfire, and Spotfire will be the visual interface, which is very intuitive and a lot of people are comfortable with. Again, so and then, you know, some people are not as versed or as comfortable in the machine learning. So as Gartner says, data science is a team sport, and this is proof of that, and that you need the team to work together. So you can have users that are comfortable in Spotfire. You can have people that are comfortable within Statistica, and they can work together as a team. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a real quick workspace. I'm going to, if you open examples, there's a lot of data sets that come with Statistica. I'm just going to grab a simple data set, add study, 25 columns, 50 rows here, both categorical and numerical. And then I'm going to say, give me a new, not workbook, how about a workspace, a new workspace. And then I'm going to use a blank workspace. And by selecting this data, it'll just pop the data down into the workspace. Now, I'm going to create something just real simple for illustration. I'm just going to go up and do some simple statistics, descriptive statistics on this data. So I'll connect the two together. I'll double click on this. Excuse me. I'll grab the first three variables to select, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to select some of the statistics that I want to present. And here, so by default, valid in, I won't get that. I won't use the standard deviation or the minimum maximum. Let me just get the mean, the median, and let's say the coefficient of variation that you want possibly. And then downstream, we'll create just a summary for the downstream of these documents. So if you look at the output, essentially I've just got three variables, their mean, their median, and their coefficient of variation. And so that's the output. Now, let me just save this off. I'm going to just save this as temp. And now I've got a workflow. All right. So now the idea again is you could have someone that's very versed in this platform, this data science platform, and they want to make these assets available to a Spotfire user. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a data set, and it really doesn't matter what data set I'm going to grab because I'm not even going to use it. I'm just going to bring this in for Spotfire because it likes to have a data set available. Now, I'm going to configure the connection between these two tools. I'm going to grab Statistica underneath the tools, and this is the data function that exists between the two tools. And then I'm going to select a workspace. I have that temp on my local drive, so or I could have it in Enterprise, but now I just have it in my local drive. So I'm just going to create that, and Spotfire is going to go out there. It's going to look at that workflow, and it's going to say that the add study is the input node. And if we go back, sure enough, that is the input node. And then there's certain parameters selected available. And those parameters are sure enough what we selected in here, right? And so I'm going into the advanced piece right here. So these are just kind of lining up. And again, you don't have to necessarily make everything line up. I'm just going to do that for illustration's sake and make it easy to use. So I'm going to select the same three, the mean, the median, and the coefficient of variation, and then I'll say done. And then the other thing that we might do, the last piece is the output, and so I'll just have descriptive statistics as the output, and that'll be done. Now that output again is over here in this workspace. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to edit the parameters here, and let's suppose I want to control whether the coefficient of variation is actually presented in the output or not. So I select coefficient of variation, and then I select that as a document property. This allows me to control the variable from in the Statistica workspace from the Spotfire dashboard. All right, I'll go ahead and say refresh the function automatically and this document property, and I'm just going to call this select CV. All right, so that's select the coefficient of variation, and it's a Boolean, right? It was a little checkbox, yes or no, and I'll start it with true. In other words, it will be presented in the output, and that's it for that. And then the output, this descriptive statistics we'll just put as a table, and we'll say create a new data table when you do that. All right, and that's pretty much it for setting up the Spotfire data function. So if I want to, let me return. Create a table with the data. Here's again the data table I'm not even going to use. I'm going to use these descriptive statistics, and there's my coefficient of variation. And then now I'm going to create a control to work with the Statistica workflow. So I'm going to say give me a text area, and I'm sure you've probably done this before where you can control Spotfire. If you're a Spotfire user, I'm going to say select CV question mark, and then I'm going to say let that be an input field, and that input field will be, again, I said select this CV, right? That's what we did before when I created that Boolean, and true or false is what I use by default. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. That makes that a control within Spotfire, and then I'll just save changes, and again it defaults as true. All right, so right now with true, it's going to run everything through this workspace and then return those values. If, however, I change the control to false and hit enter, then that CV goes away. So obviously this is a very simple example, but you can imagine many use cases where you want to control parameters within a complex workspace. And the nice thing here, these aren't scripts, these are actually an entire visual recipe of flow, including sourcing data, cleansing data, modeling data, basically doing anything you want in a data science project, and then getting the output, and then making that available to someone that wants to work within a visual dashboard. All right, so I'll stop there, but again, I'm making a playlist of several of these where the integration between Spotfire and Statistica. Hopefully you'll join me again. Thanks.